Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast, where we will be recapping Power, Power Book 2 Ghost, Episode 3. And that is so long-winded that, sometimes I forget even how to say it. But yeah, we're recapping that show, Episode 3. So, of course, I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Good, good. And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
I'm doing dandy.
Good, good. I'm glad you're doing dandy. Um, so yeah. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who's picked the show back up and started commenting and everything, left us comments. Shout outs to Rainy J and what's damn, I'm so bad with names. Oh, Angelwood. Big shout outs to you. And we actually have a clip from someone. Somebody sent in an audio because they liked what we're doing so much. And this person is actually he's been very active in participating with us on Twitter and everything. So he sent us an audio clip to play on the show. Basically just some feedback for the show. So I'm gonna play that. But if you guys also want to send in some voice clips, you can give your theories on Power itself, or you can give us feedback. You can send that over to Gary@thecoalition.com. Coalition spelt with a K, of course. You can see the spelling on the screen at the top right now. And yeah, so send that to me, and I will play it on the show as long as it's appropriate to play. Try not to curse too much, just because YouTube, they bug out sometimes. So yeah, keep it as clean as you can. But here's the clip from Robert Silver. I'm about to play it now. Just one sec.
Hey Gary, Rich and Dana, this is Robert Silver. I follow you guys on Twitter. Been listening to your Power podcast for the last 2 years. The last podcast covering episode 2 was tremendous. You three guys and young lady, you two fellas and young lady should be writers for this show, because you do a great job of analyzing this show and filling in the holes, and you got a lot of holes in this show. And I just want to tell you guys that you guys do a sensational job. I'm hoping you guys go and review shows like Snowfall, American Soul, Lovecraft Country, because you guys do a sensational job as black podcasters covering a black show. And I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the show. I've been listening for the last 2 years. I've not missed an episode. Rich, Gary, Dana, we'll be talking to you soon.
Alright, so that was Robert Silver. Big shouts to him. Thank you very much for the message and the kind words. We really appreciate that. And we figured like this would actually be a good way to, get more of the people involved, and, we can share theories and such. So you guys can actually be part of the show. So definitely, consider sending your voice clips over, and try to keep it within like a minute, 60 seconds and everything, because we don't want to get too long-winded with the show and everything. So we appreciate Robert Silver. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll hear from more fine people in the coming weeks. But yeah, let's get straight to episode 3 of Power Book 2. And I have to say, like I was just saying this off air, like this was really like an episode that kind of just moves the story along. So I feel like not a lot of explosive things happened in this episode, but there are some pretty important things that we need to dive into. So yeah, let's unpack what we saw. So I want to start here, right? I want to start with Brother Jabari. So the teacher, the black guy and everything. He's kind of, sometimes he throws shade at Tariq. Sometimes he seems like he's kind of on his side, and he just wants him to, be a strong, black mind and everything like that. So he kind of plays that, double role and everything. And I appreciate his character sometimes, but in this episode, he kind of stepped outside the boundaries of a teacher a little bit. So I want to ask you guys, do you think this is like, so I'm talking specifically about the part where, he has a young lady in his office and she's reading his book. And yeah, some things happen, and his ex, she comes into her own office, which is like next door, and she starts to hear these loud noises, and then she's disturbed by that, and she leaves and everything. So I want to ask you guys, like, because Rich, you actually, you mentioned before, like, you predicted that there was going to be something like this happening with a teacher and a student. So, I want to ask you guys, do you think that this is going to come back on Jabari and be a problem for him, and where you see it going from there? So, Dana, you're currently unmuted. Did you have something to say about this?
Here's I was disappointed in the scene for the simple fact that it's so cliche. Thought that we wouldn't exactly go to this route of student-teacher relationships, but yet here we are. Do I feel that this could bite him in the behind later on? Absolutely. One of two ways. It could cause one of those whole jealousy streak, fatal attraction things when he tries to break it off because he seems to just have a ding dong problem. He's just gonna probably end up bringing other students. Or it could be one of those things where he is held, what do you call it, blackmailed because of this whole situation. Either way, I don't like it. And then you have also the ex-girlfriend who's in the other, literally in the other room, who we saw storm away afterwards. We don't know how she is going to react to that whole thing. She could be very professional about it and, not mention it, or she could be one of those people who's in her feelings and causes him to have problems. Either way, I just didn't like it. Again, it felt really cliche.
Yeah, I was hoping that he would resist her, like, cause it looked like he was going to, like, he kind of pushed her away. He was like, "No, we can't do this," and everything. And it seemed like, he was actually gonna go through with it and get her to leave and everything. But then at the last second, he just like slammed the door shut, and then, he was a weak man being controlled by his parts at that point.
Very dramatic how he just like slammed the door. No.
Yeah, very dramatically.
Wait, don't go.
But yeah, Rich, like, what would you think of that, since you're the one that predicted something like this would happen?
Well, I have to say I was surprised that he is the one that did this. Well, first and foremost, let me get to answer your question. Yes, I do believe that there will be repercussions of this. I do like Dana's theory of the student coming back to blackmail him later. That's possible, but also the fact that his ex, Carrie, right next door, and the fact that he was still reaching out to her at the beginning of this episode and wasn't getting responded because, as her therapist told her, you need to avoid this guy if for anything that's not related to school. So yeah, he obviously saw that he had an opportunity to mess around with this other girl, and that's what he decided to do. I will say, I don't know if y'all noticed, that sex scene was a lot more risque than the one between him and Carrie last week. So, yeah, I don't know why they felt the need to really emphasize that. I figured that one of those risque scenes was going to come about at some point in time. But what I am interested in knowing what's going to happen next is, you mentioned last week, Gary, that we noticed that Carrie has a bit of a unhealthy obsession with Tariq, and you noticed that Tariq he wasn't around her at all this episode. They are going to eventually have another interaction because she has to respond to the fact that she had that vigil, and Tariq obviously wasn't really cool with that, tried to avoid that. But now as you'll get into later, Tariq is obviously not doing good in with the classes now. So I feel like there's another conversation coming with her at some point of time, and I'll be curious to see if she is the one that tries to make advances with Tariq. because obviously, after hearing what was happening in the other room, yes, she's going to feel very angry and disturbed about that, but also wanting to reach out for some type of sympathy. And we know Tariq also is in a sympathetic state as well because he got failed and he failed that last report that he's submitted. So I'm very curious to see which direction they're going to take things now. But I do feel as though Jabari is going to lose out, and of course, let's also mention the fact that Carrie got him the job, so she can report him and get him fired also. So that character is definitely going to experience some issues as we get deeper into the season, and it could come from multiple directions. So we'll have to wait and see which direction it actually is going to end up being.
Yeah, great points there. This could backfire on him in many ways, like if he upsets that, because now he's in a position where if he upsets that young lady, she can blow him up. Like she can, she could blow up his position. He could lose his job. He could lose everything. So he's very vulnerable now. What was you gonna say?
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just really wanted to quickly say he seems like the type of guy who we're not going to see this more. This is going to be more than once. He seems like he's going to probably do it with other students.
I would hope not. I hope he's not a serial. I hope he's not. A serial romancer. But yeah.
Well, one thing to point out that the young lady did mention that she was a graduate student. Mm-hmm. She's not really in the school, but she still can blow up his spot by talking about this stuff if he doesn't, continue to please her and all this other stuff. So we'll have to see how that situation unfolds. But even if, for whatever reason, it was a one-time thing and you don't see her anymore, the fact that Carrie was in the room right next door and she heard all this stuff happening, that's danger for him right there in terms of his whole job situation.
Well, see, I was wondering legally if she was to go against him and say, "Oh, you had an affair," and say even report it. But if the other girl refutes it, it doesn't really go anywhere. All she heard was noises, and she knew what she heard. We know what she heard, but it's easily refutable unless you have to have the willingness of the other girl to step forward to be like, yeah, let's go get him.
Yeah, that's true. Because she can't tell from listening whether or not it was a student or not. Just know that
and then it puts her in a position because he could be like, yeah, well, she did it too. So it can easily backfire on her.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think Carrie would blow up that information. I mean, first of all, like you guys said, she doesn't know for sure it was a student. It could have been anybody, but I don't think she would give it away, especially because she kind of engaged in that activity too. But obviously the fact that she heard it, she's probably upset by that or feels a certain way about it because
so if you judge by how they went and they opened the show, remember it was her talking to her friend. And she was like, well, girl, you got to leave him, with your feelings and everything. You're going to have to figure out what you're going to do. And then you had this situation where with the other girl and him, and she overheard everything. So she's going to be in her feelings, I feel, because
for sure.
She seems like the type of person, because they engaged in some relations, that she thought that there was a chance for them to get back together. And her emotions is all like, oh, I'm sensitive and heightened. So she is definitely going to be in her feelings because of this whole situation. And while she may not directly, say, I heard you do this, or, I'm upset because of that, she is going to make his job harder for him by not even telling him why she's mad.
Oh yeah, and I think she'll use this as motivation to get herself a distraction from him, from Jabari.
I can't see it, but I can't see it with Tariq.
Yeah, with Tariq, that's where I was going.
I cannot see it with Tariq. There is no way that she's gonna well, he's not even a grad student. He's
I don't grad. Let me
that
be clear.
puts her
though.
into even more danger. No.
I
Well,
don't
well,
think
well.
Tariq will bite the bullet though. I don't think he'll go through with it because he has other things going on.
I
So
can't see her even going with him because he's even that. He's an undergrad. Why not get, Mr. Sexy Fancy Pants off a Tinder who has more qualifications than the other guy and flaunt him around? Why are we flaunting around a 17-year-old?
So
Oh,
let me make this comment. If there is no physical activity, there could be a lot of flirtatious things going on between her and Tariq. The thing is this: they have already established that Jabari does not like Tariq. You saw the conversation they had after he got that grade. This guy is constantly on Tariq. And if he knows that this guy is even remotely spending any time with Carrie, even if it's not sexual, then that's going to be a cause for jealousy because he doesn't like the kid. He's not in his corner. So there's definitely going to be some tension because they wouldn't have him have that whole argument with Tariq if there isn't going to be some tension between those two moving
I
forward.
I don't even see it that way. We all have teachers that, we can't stand, but they're like, well, I'm hard on you for a reason. And it's not even because I hate you, it's because I want you to excel. I don't see it even that way. I can't see him even hating Tariq. I just see him as him just being, a teacher who's just hard on his students and hard on Tariq.
yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Sort of like I think
Yeah.
I think it's tough love in a way, but
It's not personal.
I do think he'll cross the line of hating Tariq if he knows that Carrie, starts to develop more of an interest in him. Like
Yeah.
I think that will be the thing that pushes him towards hatred. So
Can't even see that.
I can see it.
I can't. Tariq. No. There's no hatred there. It's just, I'm being a teacher and this is my job.
Yeah, like I think like Jabari's stance at the moment. I think he's like, this is another young black man. I can see that he's smart, but he's not really showing it. And and I want him to kind of stick up for himself as a black man instead of just folding to the system. I think these are the things Jabari's trying to instill in Tariq, so it comes off as kind of harsh and everything because he's not giving him a good grade or whatever. And yeah, but I think he's more so just trying to teach him a lesson. But I do think that once Carrie is in the mix, he will develop hatred towards Tariq. That can mess up a lot of things, and I'm interested to see like how this triangle or this entanglement is gonna unfold.
Entanglement. There go that word again. Yeah.
Thank the Smiths for that word because that applies to many things.
Well, yeah. So I agree with all the points that y'all both make. The only thing I'm saying is that if Carrie just cuts off Jabari completely, 100% cuts him off, and she is the one that Tariq is confiding in about how to do better in school and stuff like that. Just the fact that they are working together, I could see him feeling a certain type of way about that because he's like, well, she cut me off completely, but she's still making time to talk to this kid and help this kid out, which I might have an issue with that because I can't get my time with her. So that can happen, but again, we have to see which path they take. I will say this, and I don't want to go off topic, but I will say I'm very disappointed that a lot of times in these relationships or whatever, it's always about the guy is the one that's doing all the cheating. So that's why I was also disappointed in this scene. But we'll have to see what the end game is here. But there's definitely going to be some repercussions for what happened.
Do you feel attacked that it was a guy that's always cheating?
Oh no! I mean, I'm not personally attacked because I have never ever been in a situation where I've ever cheated. But I do think it's a little, when you see it in movies and TV shows, the guy is always the one that's out here doing dirty. I don't like that because it's not always that situation, and I know plenty of relationships, friends that I've had, women that have cheated on their men. So it definitely goes both ways. It's just unfortunate that they have to emphasize again. It's the guy that's doing the doing dirty here, but it is what it is.
I just have one thing to say about that.
What's that?
Black men don't cheat.
I was waiting for that.
That definitely is going to be the biggest joke, the biggest laughing point for this episode that people will be laughing about. But yes, absolutely, nobody cheats.
And if he cheats, that means he might be black, but he's not a man. So there you go.
Well, that's a good point. He's definitely not a man, but
yeah. But yeah, great points about Jabari. I kind of like the teacher storylines in this. Like, it's getting kind of interesting, even though it is kind of like, you know, soap opera drama-ish at times. But I kind of do like that there's something there to kind of offset, you know, all the drugs and the street stuff that's happening as well.
Well, as I'm sure you will get into later, Gary, the soap opera drama, it is all over this show. With another character that we will get into a little bit later as well. So yeah, they know how to keep people engaged, because all of the cheating and the infidelity, that definitely is going to be stuff that will get people talking.
Oh yeah, and while we're still on the school thing, you know, shouts to Tariq, I guess, because he actually finished a book this episode. So he finished reading.
But he went after the instructor. So they said no, you can't. You need to know your place and play the game, as Lauren said. Play the game.
So wrong.
Yeah. Well, what'd you think of the? I forgot the girl's name again. Like the student girl that might be a love interest.
Lauren.
Lauren. Oh, okay. Yeah, you just said it. Yeah. So. What do you think of her character? Like, do you think, because it seems like Tariq is developing more feelings for the other girl at the moment than he is for Lauren. So do you actually see a future with Lauren in it?
I do see a future with Lauren. It's going to be a complicated future, but the thing is with Lauren, the pattern that we have seen with this character so far is that she is starting to feel some sympathy for Tariq. You think about what happened last episode when they were having that discussion in class and she pretty much exposed that he didn't read the material. And then this episode where he shows her the grade that he got and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, Tariq. So obviously she's feeling a little bit of sympathy and compassion for him. And he always says she's been wanting to spend time to help him, but he's all like, oh no, I got to go. Because you saw that in this episode as well. So I think once he actually spends time with her and getting her help for the actual material, that's when that relationship is probably going to really blossom to the next stage. But she is obviously interested in helping him. And he is also interested to a certain extent, but he has so much going on now, he has to make time for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's going to come a time where I think he's going to need to like call on her for help or support or guidance or something, and that's probably when they'll get even more closer. I think what the writers are doing here is like, you know, they're making him develop more with one character so that when he kind of starts to, you know, develop a bond with the other, it's going to be more juicy, you know, than if it happens at the same time, I guess. So yeah, that I guess that's kind of what they're doing here. But yeah, like go ahead.
I think Dana was about to say something.
Go ahead, Dana. What was you gonna say?
Oh, Dana just sneezed.
Oh, my fault. Okay.
Bless you.
Yeah, continue, Gary.
Oh no, that was it. Dana, what do you think of Lauren? Like,
I'm trying to. Which girl is Lauren?
So Lauren is like the she's kind of, you know, light skinned. She's the schoolgirl.
Oh, her, the schoolgirl. Okay, I'm getting her confused with the drug girl. Okay, so I think that this could be like Okay, so remember how last episode we was talking about the two different worlds that Tariq is currently in, which is he could go the straight way or the drug way.
Yeah.
I feel that she is a potential to be a love interest as well that can tap into that, Tariq side of being an intellect. So I want to see what they're going for with this.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
He could be her Angela. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just make a quick comment to piggyback off of what Dana just said. I think if you look at the show as a whole, I think that is how the writing team approached this show from beginning to end. Not just with those two characters of Diana and Lauren, but also between the brothers as well. With you'll get into later, Kane and Drew, because it's clear that Drew is a little bit of a nice, cool, laid back type of guy. He's trying to be polite about how he goes about doing business, whereas his brother is just reckless. And it's all these different characters that make different choices. And you're saying that, well, Tariq can be a nice kid that does great, or he can be reckless and do whatever he wants to do. So I feel like the writers, when they made this show, they wanted to have a lot of different characters that can go like down a lot of different paths, and this is also related to whichever path Tariq is going to go down. So yeah, that's good. That's a good way to approach it. But yes, continue.
Yeah, one thing I want to also say, you guys made great points, by the way, but one thing I want to also say before we move on to the next topic, I want to see how they're going to, like, whenever they get to that power show that's basically going to be like, Ghost, Tommy, and Kanan when they were young and in school and stuff. I want to see how they're going to make that kind of different or like stand out, because the way like this show Ghost Book 2, like this, there's already a lot of parallels to what we know of Ghost, Tommy, and Kanan's story in the past, like, because this is very much like the same thing playing out if you look at it, because you have like the white boy who could be like the Tommy. You have Tariq, who's Ghost. You have Lauren is Angela. You have what's her name, Diana, who's Tasha. You have Kane, who's Kanan. Like, it's like you already got everyone right here. Like, it's like they're already retelling the story pretty much.
You're right, and the whole point you made about Braden, the friend, and Tariq, when they had that little handshake in this episode. Oh yeah, Tommy and Ghost. So you're 100% right, Gary, because that's what I thought about when they had the handshake. It's like, okay, they are really trying to replay these events over again, just a little bit different and a little bit more updated for the modern, the modern youth.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, like I just don't want it to. I don't want it to feel played out whenever they get to doing that actual show of the young Ghost or whatever. Like, I don't want it to be like a repeat, basically, of what we've already seen.
They might well as well, because we have, like you just said, it's the two different shows, but it's gonna have this basically the same parallels. Well, what we're getting now with the little white kid here, and with Tariq, and it's going to end up showing, with Kanan and Tommy and Ghost. So yeah, we're going to probably just end up, which is why I hope this show goes into a different direction.
Well, one point to make. I don't believe that. At least I haven't heard that Courtney Kemp has confirmed that Ghost or Tommy is going to be in that Kanan show. So that is something that we don't know yet if they're going to go. I think they said this is mainly
them without the show.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, that show was supposed to be just about Kanan. There's no confirmation that Ghost and Tommy are going to be in it yet.
But like, see, the thing is with that show, they could maybe do a season of just like Kanan by himself, but eventually you're gonna have to have Tommy and Ghost because they're part of his story. So
yeah. You're right about that.
It said, look, 50 Cent gave an interview. He gave an interview with, trying to find out who the interview was with somebody. I can't figure this out. The UK Express, right? That's your people. And he explained that it would be going into the past of Ghost, Tommy, Angela, and Kanan.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So they're in it. all three. Remember when we watched that little prequel clip that they showed at the end of the first Ghost Tower?
Yeah.
That's that show, so they're all in it.
See, the only reason why I will say I will wait for that is because they have revealed the casting for the show, and there is no casting for Ghost, Tommy, or Angela. It's just because they have Omar Epps and all these other characters that are obviously going to play a role in what happens with Kanan. So maybe, like Gary said, the whole first season can focus just on Kanan, and then the next season after that, that's when they introduce these characters. But I don't think they're going to be in there right from the very beginning.
I can't see them not being in it.
Yeah, because maybe Kanan, maybe he was at another school or something first, or maybe he just didn't go to school or something. I don't know, but
they casted Ghost for the show.
Oh, they casted him.
What is
it
Chris
the same?
Sumter.
Is it the same guy as like we saw in?
It's the same guy, Chris Sumter. It's the same guy. He's taken on the role of young Jamie.
Okay. Well,
joining him will be Ethan Skowski. I don't know how to pronounce that, but he's playing Tommy. Carl Gallagher is also in it. No, he played the role of Carl Gallagher in Shameless, which you would know because you watched that.
Yeah, so excellent show.
That kid is playing Tommy.
Okay.
And then we have Camila Perez, who's playing Angie.
All right. Well, we'll see how they implement that, but
because like I'll say, there's no doubt that, as y'all both said, they will eventually have to explain what happens with Kanan, but you're not going to bring in the other characters. You have Joey Badass the rapper, who's also in the show, and they have important roles in the show. So I feel like you need to show how Kanan transforms into the person that he becomes before you get into what happens with these other characters, because I will believe by the time he gets to a certain level of respect, that's when Tommy and Ghost are getting involved into it, because they're looking at Kanan as someone who is a lot more into this than them. He's a leader, so they have to learn. You have to figure out about what happens with that character before you evolve into what happens with Jamie and Ghost with Jamie and Tommy getting involved in all of this other stuff.
And they cast Kanan.
Yeah.
They cast him already. They have the full cast.
Yeah, we already seen him.
But Makaya Curtis is Kanan.
Wait, Curtis Jackson?
Oh, Makaya Curtis.
Oh,
I might be butchering the name.
So he had to have Curtis in the name, huh?
Ha 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 ha. And they have his mom and dad. Yeah, everyone's been cast.
Well, we'll get all the answers in 2021 when that show debuts.
I actually can't wait for that show now. I think that's going to be a great show.
Oh, they said first season we'll have Tommy and Ghost about their bond, so you can't have one without the other. First season, first episode.
Interesting.
You sounded so deflated. You was like, oh.
I think they'll be like, if they're in it, they're going to be like very background characters until later, probably. Cause,
I mean, that's why I say you just have to wait and see, because if you look on IMDb, there is no casting for these characters.
You have to stop relying on IMDb.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying
you can't say that because he remembers like every single name. So like we need that.
Oh gosh.
I mean, they very well can be in the show, but I think we just have to wait and see, because again, I think you also need to tell the story of how Kanan became Kanan before you get to what happened with him, Ghost, and Tommy. So they have to, like you said, like you both said, they're definitely going to have to be a part of this, because they are a part of the story, and him eventually getting locked up and having to do time. So yeah, they're going to eventually get into that. I just don't know if it's going to be. It probably won't happen right away, because there's other stuff that has to happen first.
Right.
But we'll see.
And also him being the father of Tariq and Rainey. Not Rainey, the other daughter. I can't remember.
Raina. Yeah, Raina.
Oh, it was Raina.
Yeah.
I said Rainey. I thought Michael's name. I thought of the actor's name.
Yeah, so like because we're kind of dragging this on, but I do have I do have one more question about that show, like the Raising Kanan show. So let's say the Raising Kanan show goes on for like, a few seasons, like 5 seasons or whatever. Like, where do you think the cutoff for that show should be? Like, should it be when Kanan goes to prison, like goes to jail, where Ghost sets him up or whatever? Is that where that show should end, or is there a point before that you think it should end?
I think that is a good point of ending it. If I recall, when we first saw Power, when they introduced the Kanan character, he was already in jail. So I mean, I think that's a pretty good stopping point for you to end it with him having to go to jail, and then that's when Tommy and Ghost now have to take over this empire that has been started. So that's my guess.
I want the last scene of the last episode of the last shot to be Kanan as 50 Cent, him going to jail.
That would be dope if like the last episode of Raising Kanan was like the actual actors, like 50, Omari and what's his name? I always forget.
Joseph Sikora.
Yeah, like that would be dope if like the last episode or something was like those 3 as as the characters, and then it shows you what happened, what led to him getting locked up and stuff. That would be dope.
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll see.
But yeah, so we kind of we went off script, so I apologize, but that was fun. It was fun to have these discussions. But yeah, let's get to Tasha and her case, and Davis McLean and everyone else involved. So a lot happened with her case. She was called in, I guess, to speak in front of the jury and everything. And we also saw some scenes of her in the prison where she was she was talking to the lady that she got the pill for, and we see that she's actually being watched and stuff by Tohada, and we're gonna get into that stuff later. but let's focus on the case alone at the moment. So she had to speak a few times. One time she was rushed to the court to speak, and she wasn't ready at all, but she made it happen. But it seems like things aren't going in her favor at the moment, and obviously she's still lying about certain things, and that's the problem. They know that she's, Davis McLean knows that she's not telling the whole truth, and I guess the other lady who's involved knows that she's lying, like not telling the truth too. And this is kind of it's kind of impacting the course of her case and everything, because there's only so far I guess you can go if your defense is based on lies. Then there's sometimes there's only so far you can go with that lie. So so I want to ask you guys, do you think that Tasha is eventually going to have no choice but to tell the truth or about everything, like fully confess about everything that she did, and everything that Ghost didn't do? Because of course in this episode Terry Silver came up a lot, and we know that we know that Ghost actually did do that. He did kill him, but there's a lot of things Ghost didn't do, and a lot of things that Tasha had like a part of, like she was involved in that crime family pretty much. She was actively involved, and she killed Lakeisha, so her hands are dirty. So I want to ask you guys, like, is there going to be a point that comes up where she is going to have to just tell the truth? Do you think that she'll even tell the truth about Tariq when that happens? And just let me know any other thoughts you have about how this case is playing out, because we saw the other lawyer come back too, like the I always forget her name too, the one who was Tamika, there you go.
Yeah, that was the funniest part of that entire this entire episode, her going in on Tasha, grilling Tasha.
Yeah. And if Tasha is folding to Tamika, how is she gonna perform when it's a full, a full courtroom and everything with everyone there, So, but yeah, go ahead, Rich. Like, what do you think? Like, is she gonna have to just tell the truth eventually?
So, first and foremost, let me just say this. I want to give a quick shout out to Angelwood because she had a comment last week where she says, "I will refuse to call to refer to Method Man as Davis McLean. It's Method Man." So I thought that was a funny comment because that's exactly how a lot of people feel. But to answer the question in particular, I believe that my prediction is that Tasha, I think that eventually Davis McLean is going to succeed in making sure that she gets off as far as not killing, not being the one who didn't kill Jamie. But I think ultimately Tasha is going to confess to killing Lakeisha, because I think about in the very first episode when they showed all the photos of the people that they said that Ghost killed, and she paused for a second when she saw the Lakeisha photo, and I feel like the character does have to pay for that at the very least. You can say that yes, she didn't kill Ghost, whatever, but I feel like that right there is a situation that you absolutely cannot ignore. And we also saw when they had the mock trial and when she failed in front of Tamika, that after that, when Method Man was going to give up on the case, but then he brings up the fact that this case is about the Cooper Sacks. So I do feel that means that Cooper Sacks is definitely going to get exposed, because again, it still hasn't been explained why was he there the night that Jamie got killed. Eventually, they're going to get to that point, because it definitely, Method Man's character Davis McLean, he acknowledges that Cooper Sacks is trying to hide something. He is involved in all of this, because the same when they also exposed and they revealed that yes, Tamika was the one working with Sacks. So it feels like that's going to come to a head at some point. The question I think a lot of people should be asking is, Tamika obviously does not want to work with Davis McLean, even though he knows that she was dealing with Cooper Sacks. I want to know if Cooper Sacks is going to mess up his relationship with Tamika to the point where she also turns against him, because we know that Cooper Sacks has had a lot of people turn against him. He also has had Blanca turn against him as well. So I feel like it's only a matter of time, and once he does that, that's it for Cooper Sacks' character. That's the game is over. He could be doing jail time, or something else happens to him. But that's a question that we definitely should be asking. But in terms of this whole case situation, yes, the dramatics of seeing what happens to Tasha, that happened because they want to get people, obviously they're very interested in seeing what happens with the case. So they wanted to address that as soon as possible, because again, this is all a practice run before we actually get to the actual trial. And the fact that they had this mock trial, which they have mentioned is a very expensive thing to do, that's going to put more pressure on Tariq to get this money so he can continue to keep this thing going with the lawyer. So yeah, but for what I see so far, Tasha has lied consistently. So this is going to continue to be an issue. But I do think eventually she is going to confess, yes, I did kill Lakeisha, and there's going to be some type of repercussions from that. But in terms of her getting off, I don't believe that now. I know we had the bet last week. I must say now, I don't believe that Tasha is going to be in any way get out of prison by the end of this season. And I would go so far as to say if she does confess that she killed Lakeisha, well, she's definitely going to still be doing some time. I don't think it's going to be life, but she's definitely going to still be doing some time. But we'll have to see how that all pans out.
Yeah, you make good points. And just to add to that, like, I think Cooper Sacks is going to be the sacrificial lamb of this season. He is going. Like he is going to fall at some point. I think like this season he's gonna fall. He's gonna be exposed. But the question is whether Tasha is gonna also fall with him, or if she's going to be released at his expense. So I want to see how they play that card, because I do feel like that is something that's coming. And us viewers, we need our satisfaction, and we've hated Sacks for a very long time. So we have to at least see him fall, for everything he did in Power. So
I agree, and this goes back to what both you and Dana said, and when we recorded the first episode, why the hell wasn't Sax brought up at all? And when this whole thing started, and it's because they want to prolong this out over a season for you to finally get the answer at the very end of the season. So that's because there's no reason to bring Tommy into this. Although I will once again say I will not be surprised if Tommy shows up at the end of the season. The final shot of the season, you see Tommy. Now he needs to go after Tasha or whatever. But yeah, they should have addressed that question a long time ago. But again, they want to keep you watching. They want to keep you entertained, so they're not going to give you all the answers right at the very beginning of the season. But by the end of the season, I definitely expect that answer to be for us to get the answer on Sax regarding that.
Yeah, definitely. Dana, what would you think about Tasha's situation? Do you think that she's going to be forced to tell the truth at some point? And also give your thoughts about anything else related to the case itself.
I think the biggest question is, would anybody care? She's lied so much that she's damaged her own credibility. So she could literally, say, I killed everyone, and it just wouldn't have that any kind of impact because no one believes her anyway with anything. So her, trying to say, oh, I killed that man, but I didn't kill that one. That was Ghost over there. And her still, remember, she still kept bringing up Tommy's name in this episode. So I just don't, they made a big thing. She's not credible. She is easily, you can poke holes to her story. And the point is to get the jury to believe you wholeheartedly. And I just don't feel that. Yeah, I just think that it's going to backfire on her, and she may end up taking the fall for all of the murders. Even if she says, I can give you this guy, but I didn't do that guy, or try to have some type of bargaining system, it's not going to work because she's lied so many times to the point where it's just ridiculous. In regards to Sax, yeah, he has to go. We all know that. Whether or not they take, 3 seasons or 1 season to get there, that's the thing that we don't know. But I hope eventually he will have his downfall. And I don't really see him as being a type of person who's going to, if he ends up being arrested, he may end up killing himself. I don't know. But everything in regards to Tasha, she's just lied so much to the point where I'm cool if Tommy comes in right now and just, bops her in prison, takes her out, goes on back to California.
Well, I mean, at this point, anything could happen to Tasha in prison. So, I mean, it doesn't have to come from Tommy. So,
Tommy could pull Omar, come in like the wheelchair. He's like he's an old lady coming to see Tasha. And then, pulls out the gun and shoots her. It's just so ridiculous how she keeps putting his name in it. And it's, no.
Yeah. To me, that makes her character very irredeemable for me.
She was redeemable? I mean, there was a point when she was, but not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There was a point where she was, but, now it's I hate her as much as I hated Tariq in the last, show and everything. Because it's she's playing very dirty. Okay, fair enough. Her and Ghost had their problems in their relationship. Ghost slept with Angela. He chose Angela, basically. And I understand that she's scorned because of that. And she's probably, deeply hurt by that. But throughout Power, we saw that Tasha had, her own kind of friendship with Tommy. They had their own little friendship where, if she needed, to smoke or something, she would go see him. They would hang out in the car or whatever, and he would do vice versa. He would go to her, eat some food or whatever, and just kind of feel good about himself again. And now it's she's just dumping everything on him. She's dumping all of the blame on him. And it's weren't you guys friends? And you also, on top of that, you killed his fiance. It's why are you dumping everything on Tommy? What did he do to you? So yeah, I can't. I just can't get with anything that Tasha is doing at the moment. I think it's foul and dirty.
No, I,
I
you
just
know, I personally think that even if for whatever reason the character does end up getting out of prison, I don't think that that character is going to be around for too much longer after that because again, she's wrapped up in too many things. You know, you're speaking bad about Tommy, but now we also know that, as you'll get into in a little while, that she also is connected to what's happening with Tariq. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of things that character is in some danger. So we'll have to see how they are going to tell the story of how she's going to navigate through this. But I feel like even if she does get out, she's on borrowed time because somebody is going to come after her. It's only a matter of time, but we'll have to see who it actually is going to end up being. And it wouldn't make sense for it to be Tommy, quite honestly, since she killed his woman. So, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, Tommy has every right to do something to her, but you know what I want to see also?
What's that?
I want to see Tasha get out of prison, and then I want to see Monae whoop her ass for some reason. Like, I don't care what the reason is. Like,
Speaking of that, isn't that how they did? Remember how the guy, I can't remember, one of Dre's associates, the funny guy with the glasses, and he got out of prison and he was all like happy and eating a hot dog.
Oh yeah.
And then they just killed him right there in the street. They could do that to Tasha. I would appreciate that.
You're talking about Spanky.
Spanky!
Yeah, Spank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some things. I think she's gonna get hurt somehow. So, but let's segue right into that, right? Because I do want to talk about Monae. There's a lot to kind of dissect with her in this episode. But first of all, let's get to the prison stuff with Tohada and everything. So we see that somebody is actually watching Tasha, and I guess he's the guy who is responsible for giving her the burner phone and the pill that she asked for and everything. And he's going back to report to Tohada on the male side of the prison or whatever. So it seems like they're keeping close tabs on her. And obviously this is going to come into play with what we see developing with Tariq and Monae and everything. It's going to be a means of control. But do you what would you guys think of that, first of all? And also, do you think that Tasha also has to worry about that prison guard? Because it seems like there might be some tension there, because I guess that prison guard, is she, they are lesbians, right? Does she like that other chick or something? And I don't want to I don't want to get this make a mistake.
I mean, that certainly could have been implied. I don't know if it's been outright confirmed, but it definitely was implied the way she was looking at Tasha's interactions with her. Mm-hmm. So we can assume that is a possibility, because she was very angry when the lady told her she needed that morning after pill, like she might be pregnant. Yeah. So but there's a lot of questions still about that, so we'll have to see about that. But it certainly is implied. I will say that much.
What do you think of that, Dana? Is there something going on there with the prison guard and the black
honestly
lady?
I was so confused at that point. It was like, I don't think I should assume. I don't know what's going on, because because what happened, what threw me was, remember, she never took the pill.
Right.
So I don't understand that whole subplot. I'm just confused.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I mean, we know that Tasha is trying to work with this lady, so because it's good to have friends in this type of environment. So they established that, but yeah, they do need to confirm more details about what's going on with that guard and her. So
right, but I just didn't understand why she didn't take the pill. I'm still stuck on the pill.
Something funny's going on there, because it's just the way they focused on that prison guard. There's something going on. I don't know what it is, but yeah, maybe the commenters will help us out with that, because they always do. So, but yeah, what would you guys think of Tohada you know, and him keeping tabs on her and things like that, and how Tohada rolls him in prison, because it seems like, you know, he's set up really well. It seems like he's still able to run things and everything like that. So you guys got any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Rich.
Well, it appears to me that, you know, there's obviously a power struggle, because Lorenzo Tohada, he wants the family to the business to be run a certain way, and there's issues between him and his wife. The thing that obviously, when I mentioned earlier in this podcast, they really like to really play up the whole dramatics of the cheating and the infidelity. We know that Monae has been sleeping around with this other officer. So I don't really know if Lorenzo knows about that yet, but I could only assume there's going to be a fallout when he finds out, because in this same episode, she slept with him also. So it's that's a bit trifling. So I guess that is another thing when they made the comment that yes, Mary J. Blige is playing a Ghost character, because Ghost also was cheating. So that's another comparison I guess you can make for those two characters. But to answer the question, they are keeping tabs on Tasha. You saw at the end of the episode how he called Tasha on that same phone and said, you need to tell Tariq to do everything that we say, otherwise we will kill him. So that works two ways, because if Tariq, you know, that's the one thing that I really don't think, I mean, they have implied it, but they haven't outright said it. They know that Tariq cares about his mother, so they also can threaten Tariq. If he messes up and say, well, we know where your mom is at, we will kill her. And that's a two-way thing there. That's why I say it's a dangerous path that they're going down. Tariq is, we're dealing with them, because either way, it's they can get to him and they can get to her. So it's a very dangerous situation to be involved in. But I will say that in terms of how he is running things right now, he can only do so much from being inside. He can only tell her, you know, Monae, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. But again, she still wanted to do things her own way. So it's a power struggle, and it makes things uncomfortable for the actual kids, because they're right in the middle of all of this. So we'll have to see how that goes. But obviously, it's going to be a lot of issues with that, and that's what I think they wanted to establish with this episode, to show that there is a very conflicting situation with that whole family. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we were saying last week. Like, you know, like when I was saying, like, I can't wait to see what the interactions are like between Monae and Lorenzo. Like, this is it. You know, we saw that there is actually a power struggle going on between those two, because Monae wants things to run one way and he wants things to run another. And of course, he is not around to actually enforce anything. So Monae is going to do what she wants. And one of the questions I wanted to really ask, like, and this is like the biggest question, like, do you think that, you know, Monae is a bit of an evil dictator? Because it's like she's very controlling with her kids and everyone, it seems. It's like she's not even letting the girl go to college and get an education, and that's an actual positive thing to do. You know, it's like, why do you want these people to be, you know, why do you want their whole lives to be criminal? You know, it's like, what is she a dictator? Like, what do you guys think?
I would love to answer that question, but go to Dana first, because what I got to say, it's going might be a little bit complicated.
Well, he's going to drop a bombshell. Okay. Okay, well, Dana, what do you think of that? You're muted, by the way, I think, because we can't hear you.
I'm muted. Sorry. Okay. In regards to Monae's character.
Oh. Everything okay over there? Okay, there was some...
Sorry.
Okay.
Yep, sorry.
You good?
Okay, in regards... Yeah, I'm good. It was the oven. In regards to Monae's character, I don't understand what they are trying to do with her. In the sense of, if she's trying to build this whole drug empire, is she trying to keep it all in the family? Because why would she discourage the kids from, going to college and getting this scholarship and, living their best life? Especially now when it's like 2020. And the fact is, nobody is struggling in the sense of finances. So I really don't understand the motive behind her being so adamant everyone partake in the drug lane. Um, it just kind of feels like this is all she has, maybe, and she's using this as some sort of desperation. But the thing also is, it doesn't feel like it's an intimate threat to her livelihood, like someone is about to find out or the cops are closing in. So I'm just really confused by her actions and her motives in regards to the kids having to partake in like this drug life thing. I don't know if she will retaliate if, say, they ran away and was like, I'm gonna go and, live my own life. Maybe she would retaliate, but it just seems to be very narrow minded. So I'm just really confused by what they're trying to do with her. Because even Ghost, he tried to keep that separate from the kids and he pushed for that education.
Exactly.
Just to, was just adamant on being where he's at now, a drug dealer. So I just don't understand her motives. And there are people who are like that, who are like, no, you're not going to go to college, you're going to do this and partake, still stay in that drug life. There are people who are like that, but it's still confusing to me.
Yeah, very confusing. But Rich, how about you? What did you have to say about this?
Let me start by saying that's an excellent comparison that Dana made from how Ghost treated his family to how Monae is treating hers. That is 100% excellent analysis. So I have to give you props for that. So to answer the question, I personally think that, and the writers are going to have to find a way to really explain this. There isn't really an explanation of why she wants to, why she wants them to be involved so heavily, and I think this goes a little bit deeper. And obviously, you can make the comment that she's trying to step out of the shadows of Lorenzo and prove that she can run things. And that's what you say. It's a thirst for power, and once they see that they have control, they want to keep control. But I think it needs to be a little bit more than that, because as you both said, there's no signs the family is struggling. So as a viewer, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, what is the obsession with wanting the kids to also continue this thing going strong? And that's what I think they need to answer. Like, if I could understand if there was a debt that they had to repay to somebody who they were dealing with before, and they need to pay that debt, and that's why she's keeping this thing going so that they can keep paying that debt and stay out of trouble. That right there is a valid explanation as to why she wants them to continuously do all this work to keep this legacy going on. But I feel the writers need to explain that better than it just being, well, I need to now take over control because my husband is no longer able to do what he needs to do. He's on the inside. He can't do everything. I need to prove that I'm the one that can take this over. I don't really care what he says. That's why I said, whenever Lorenzo finds out that she has been sleeping around with this other guy, that 100% is going to be a big falling out. And I want to see how they tell that story. But from now, as a viewer, as I had mentioned last week, I want to see the Mary J. Blige character of Monae. We need to see a character that is, takes control, is in charge. We got that sense of that already. And what you said, Gary, about her being a dictator, that makes sense. But again, there has to be a reason explained as to why she has that mindset. And it cannot be just, well, now I'm in control, I need to take over. There has to be a motivation behind that also, not just that. So I hope that they're going to dive into that a little bit further. Because, yeah, this whole episode, I look at the character, it's just like, this is just a parent that is just up in everything that her kids does. And this is a character that, if I'm looking at on the outside, I'm like, I want something to happen to this character because she is trying to dictate and ruin their lives just to keep the business going. There has to be a better explanation for that. So I'm hoping that they're going to eventually explain all of this over the rest of the season. Because right now, after watching this episode, I'm not really too fond of that character now. It's like I'm like, this is an annoying character that wants to take control of whatever her kids does, and I don't like any parent that is controlling in that sense. Because the kids should have a right to
And
do what they want to do also. But continue.
and it was also kind of really weird. Remember the burner phone scene when she was
Oh yeah,
looking for the burner and she called it the family burner?
yeah.
I'm like, what century is this woman from? But they had the family burner phone, and also it was the fact that she was speaking to her father without her permission, and that really upsetted her.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I would like to know the relationship between, the girl and her father, and then the father with Mary J. Blige. It felt like it was some kind of paranoia thing that was going on. So
Yeah.
I don't understand with that. That could be an interesting, thing to dissect and for them to explain, but I don't understand. It felt like Mary was from another time period, and they just dropped her into 2020.
Yeah. And I
I don't
get,
get it.
and I get the character being fed up because yeah, your husband is locked up, and now there's all these things that I have to take care of because he's not there. But see, they didn't explain it in that context yet. If they give context as to why she feels she has to take over, like I said, if it's a debt that they owe to someone who may potentially become an enemy and they have to keep the business going to pay that debt, I totally understand if that's what it is. But you have to explain from a writing standpoint. And like I said, I will give them time to explain it because, again, we only just got introduced to this dynamic this episode. So I guess you have to give it some time to see how the story unfolds to really understand why the power struggle is there. But they definitely have to explain that because after watching this episode, if you look at Monae as a character, you're like, this is just a controlling parent that wants to dictate the lives of her kids. She doesn't want them to seek anything outside the family business. And that is someone that I can't root for because there just has to be more to the character than just that being that type of person. So we have to see how they explain that, but they definitely have a lot to explain with that.
Yeah. You're both absolutely right. You both make great points. And I agree with
Do you
a lot
think
of
she's
it. Like,
biologically their mother?
well,
That is a great question because
That's what I was wondering, because she got to the point where it's like, oh, like that paranoia, like, did you kidnap these kids or something? That's what.
okay, hold that thought a sec. Let me get to the other thing, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a sec. But so yeah, you guys made great points, and like I'm looking at it like this. It's like there's two types of like drug dealer, right, or drug kingpin, whatever label you want to put on it. Like there's the type who they begin to get into the drug life or selling drugs and everything because they literally have nothing. Like it's an economical thing. Like their back is against the wall. There's no opportunities in the neighborhood, and they just don't have anything. They come from nothing, right? And then there's this drug economy on the streets. So they decide to go down that path and sell drugs, and then they come up, they elevate themselves, they've got money all of a sudden, and they keep climbing that ladder in the criminal underworld. But ultimately their motive is to better their lives and their situation and the people around them, so their family too. Like they want better for themselves and the people around them. So let's say they get to the point of Jamie St. Patrick, where they own a penthouse, club, all this stuff, and they've built that from the drug life and everything. But because their focus getting into the drug game was to better their lives and the people around them, they have their children now and everything, and they say, you know what, I don't want this for you. Like, I don't want this drug life for you. So I'm going to give you the opportunities I didn't have. So you're going to go to school, you're going to go to the best school and everything like that. You're going to get, a job. I'm going to make a business for you. I'm going to give you some stocks or whatever. Like, there's that type of drug dealer, right? And then there's another one who is just kind of in it just to be in it. And they're just in it because it's something I guess they can control. It makes them, feel like they're a part of something. And even though they've got to the point where they have opportunities to do other things, they could start a nightclub, they could, start any other type of business they want because they've got so much money from it, they still choose to just sell drugs. And that kind of person, is controlling to the point that they want everyone around them to be in the life as well. And that is what Mary J. Blige is. But I feel like to be that type of person, it has to be something very deep-seated. Like, there's some deep-seated psychological stuff that makes you wired that way. So, in the case of Monae, there is something from her past that is making her like this. And like you guys said, we need to see that. Otherwise, this is a very kind of shallow role. If they if they don't take the time to explain why she's so controlling like this, that is a very shallow role, and I feel like they will ruin that character because there is no reason for her to just be that controlling over her kids, to deny them going to college and bettering themselves and getting a good education, more smarts, more intelligence, and all these other things, like, and that brings me to what Dana said, right? Because you would, if these were your kids, if these are your kids and you're the mother, they came out of your body, you should want the best for them, and what you're doing isn't the best thing for them, and you have the opportunity to do better for them. So why aren't you doing better for them, right? So that's why what Dana said is a good question, because it's like, are these even your kids? Because it's like, if they are, you should want better for them than to be in this life. So yeah.
Or even if you adopt them, motherhood comes in all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that deep, because it would be really weird if they weren't her kids at this point. The fact that they've set up the show like this, I feel like they probably are her kids, but they just need to show us why she's like this. Like, there has to be a reason. They have to kind of dig into the past. Obviously, they're setting up some kind of conflict between her and her husband. So while they're doing that, we need to kind of see what caused this in the first place, because there's got to be something behind that. And if there isn't, then that's bad writing and it's a bad character. And I don't want it to be a bad character, because so far she's kind of, the past 2 episodes, she was very mystique and everything. And that made me drawn to the character, that made me interested in the character. But, now that we've seen her be this way, I want there to be like a really deep reason for it. So what was you going to say, Rich?
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say I agree 100% with that. There has to be a reason. And like I mentioned earlier, it can't just be, well, now I'm in control and I want to take over this operation. It has to be a much better explanation as to why she is this way. So hopefully they are going to explain that.
Yeah, exactly. And
her kids.
If it's not her kids, that really that takes away from the whole thing, because you got the whole thing with Tariq trying to date Diana and stuff. Like, if it's not really her kids, it kind of takes away from all of this. Like, it doesn't seem as impactful if they're not her kids.
I've watched enough Lifetime movies. The way how she reacted with the phone doesn't make any sense.
I could maybe see, like, maybe one of them is
maybe like one. one of them kids is not her kids.
Yeah, I can see one of them. Maybe one of them isn't, but
I
all of
mean, just to piggyback off of what was said, I would not, based on it appears to me she has a very deep interaction with Kane. That could be her son from a previous engagement, you know, and then Drew and Diana could be her biological kids. That's just a guess, but because again, you notice that Lorenzo, uh, when he said that y'all need to talk to these people, he said Kane cannot be there.
yeah,
He wants Drew to learn how to do this stuff growing up, but it could be a situation where Kane could be Monet's son from a previous marriage or whatever, and that's why she has they both. It would explain why Kane is so aggressive, and yet the other two are not, and it will also explain why Monae was aggressive. I mean, because she is very much like her son, but that's just my opinion. But again, we'll have to wait and see because they definitely have a lot to explain. We've only just got to know these characters for 3 episodes, so there's a lot more they got to explain, especially with Monae and why she reacted the way she did.
yeah, yeah. I hope they do a good job of this, like, cause yeah. Go ahead, Dana.
Kidnap them kids. I still say they kidnapped one of those kids, and not her kids. She kidnapped something. She got one of the kids nefariously.
Or maybe she just has like daddy issues or something. Maybe she didn't have a good childhood or a good relationship with her parents or something, and I don't know, like that affects how she treats her children. Maybe so it could be something like that. Like
Or,
Maybe.
or it maybe could be that a lot of people have used her all their life. They take advantage of her. So now this is her getting back, and acting the way she is, just based off of reactionary to how she was treated in the past. But yeah, like you said, we'll see. But no, go ahead, Dana, because you were making a point.
So then, if that is the case, then do you view it as you're not going to leave me because everyone else did?
yeah,
Is that why she's so controlling?
that could be it. Like I've been around people like that before who have you know they have like kind of a what do you call it, like a phobia, if you will, about people leaving them. So like they try to control people and make sure that they're always around them and kind of doing what they want or whatever. So I've been around people like that before. It's like an emotionally abusive kind of toxic environment, but it's because that person kind of has some deep inner problems that they need to work out, and maybe they've been psychologically impacted by people being around them and then leaving, abandoning them or whatever. So maybe that's what she's going through. She wants to make sure her kids are always around her and involved in what she's doing, and the thought of them going away to college is just kind of she just worried about that, I guess. Like so maybe that's what it is. But I just hope that they show that somehow, and don't just make it like, oh, she's a controlling drug dealer woman. Like I don't want it to just be that, like show us like who she really is and why she's this way. So but yeah, so let's get to like the children, right? Because we see that scene with Drew and Kane, and obviously Drew is kind of more of a talker. He's a more calm kind of person who tries to talk to people and everything like that, right? And Kane is more hot-headed, and he wants to he wants to get in the mix of the action. Like he's very physical and everything like that. Like he wants to bust his gun and everything. So there's two contrasting personalities with those two, and Drew tries to take like the more civil approach of just talking to that person because they want to get them to tone down and stop sharing stuff on social media and everything. By the way, that guy is basically like Tekashi 6ix9ine. Like he's pretty much like that guy. So, but yeah, like, what do you think of that dynamic between those brothers? And do you think that this is going to kind of stir up some more drama in the future? Go ahead, Dana.
Oh, well, we've seen it before, so it's not exactly original. But yes, it's going to end up it's going to be like fallout between the two brothers because they're so vastly different in how they handle things, especially when it came to that other drug dealer group, and the guy went and shot up the place, or at least shot the ceiling of the place. So he can end up causing a lot more trouble for the quieter one. So I do see there being some type of maybe a standoff between the two of them, and then Mary having to get involved.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment real fast before I give my point? I think it's ridiculously, you talk about the writing, and obviously you don't want to criticize the writing, but I think it's ridiculously unrealistic that the police will show up that fast to that area, because the shots happen. This is like literally minutes, and the police just so happen to be, oh hey, get them that fast. The guys just walk out the door. That's them. Get them.
Yeah.
That's a little unrealistic.
Yes.
That guy did say
But
though.
it depends on.
The cop said the cop that Monae's sleeping with. He said that because those guys posted stuff on social media, they were already watching them.
Okay, all right, yes, that makes sense. That's a good explanation. Okay, so forget that. Commenters who get angry, just ignore that I said that. So to continue to what to make my point on this whole thing, I do agree with Dana. It is a bit cliche because we have seen this, but what I see is going to end up happening is that Drew is the kind that is very hesitant. He takes his time. And he keeps getting ragged on from his brother from not acting quickly. So my guess is that Drew, it is going to come a point where Drew is going to react very quickly to a situation, and it's not going to end in a positive way. Whether it is they kill someone, immediately, or something happens where he just goes off on somebody. That is going to happen, and it's not going to end in a positive way because that could lead to somebody getting killed. One of those characters in particular. Although I don't think the Kane character is going anywhere, but I can definitely see the Drew character, eventually getting taken out. But we'll see what happens. But because he is a character that is hesitant, or as some would consider a little bit too nice and too patient with other people, it is going to happen at some point. Because even after they had that whole interaction in this episode, he was mad at his brother. He was saying, "Why won't you just let me do what I'm doing?" Eventually, he is going to get that moment. They introduced that for a reason. So he is going to come a point in time where he is going to get angry and do something, and that will end up being some very dire consequences that come as a result of that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
I keep thinking of the whole. Remember New Jack City? Am I your brother's keeper?
Oh yeah.
This is what I just see playing out in my head. They're gonna, have to kill him, and yes, I am. That kind of stuff.
And that cop that you saw how Kane was ready to shoot that officer that was coming before the cop made the call and said, hey, try to get him away from that area. So the Kane character is very reckless and unpredictable. And they've shown you that all pretty much with the last 3 episodes. So we'll see what happens with that whole dynamic. But I do feel like that officer that Monae is sleeping around with, that character is not going to, I don't think that character will be here by the end of the season, because something will happen with him when he gets into some type of squabble with Kane or whatever. It's going to happen. And then even again, if Lorenzo finds out about him messing with his wife, it's a wrap for him anyway. So, and then once that character is taken out of the picture, they no longer have protection, because that officer is only around to make sure that things are going so smoothly. You saw he had the conversation with Monae saying, you need to stop business, you need to slow down. And she refuses to listen to what he is saying. So once that character is taken out, that family is going to become even more exposed and even more in a dangerous situation because they will have no one that can actually protect them that works for the actual police. So that's coming for sure because we got signs of that in this episode. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's a fact. Like, I agree. I don't see that guy lasting to the end of the season. And like, what I can see playing out in my mind is somehow Lorenzo might find out about the relationship with the cop, and he might actually tell Kane to pull the trigger or something, and then Kane, he like maybe Monae will be there, and like he has to decide whether he's gonna listen to Lorenzo or his mother or whatever. So
you see that Gary absolutely should be a writer for the show. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Gary knows 100%. Everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dana's already seen it, so she can tell us, if that happens. But
I can't tell you anything. I've seen nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. What?
Yeah, I'm joking. She hasn't, but she has. Yeah, so I mean that's an interesting dynamic with Kane and the brother and everything. So let's talk about, I guess this will kind of lead us into Tariq and him finally kind of making, a deal with Monae for them to work together. So we see, obviously Diana and Monae, they're going to attend Zeke's basketball game and everything. And it seems like Tariq and Diana have been texting back and forth, and they're kind of, their interest in each other is kind of growing. And that's another thing where Monae is kind of dictating a little because she's trying to keep her away from, Tariq, it seems like. And she says subtle things. She doesn't, say it directly, but, she kind of says subtle things to let her know that, she wants her to stay away from Tariq and vice versa. So, of course, we end up seeing that, Zeke is actually kind of, he's in danger of doing, bad in school and getting bad grades and everything. And Tariq can't keep up with, doing his own papers and Zeke's papers. And Zeke really wants to play basketball. And he can't unless he gets good grades. So there's a point where, Zeke has to do better in school, and Monae knows this, and then finally the two talk to each other, and Tariq, he seems very intelligent this season, and he's able to kind of broker a deal between them and an understanding that they will work together. But Tariq has to kind of, he has to not live with Zeke. He has to kind of keep his distance, and it's basically business only. So, I want to ask you guys, what do you think now that they're officially linked to each other? They're actually working together. There is actually kind of a syndicate now forming, like the Tariq's plan is basically coming into motion like now, and he's soon enough he'll have the money to support his mother's case and everything like that. So what do you guys think of this finally kind of developing and coming together? And do you think it's going to go up from here or down from here? So you first, Dana, what do you think of how that played out and where it's going?
See, normally I would be really happy and feel like, oh, he finally has his connect and everything is kind of going his way. But now I'm not, for the simple fact that I'm convinced Mary's character is crazy and, as we saw, very controlling. And now I'm actually scared for Tariq. I feel that this is going to backfire. You ever heard of the terminology, be careful what you wish for?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel that this is where the whole downfall of what is going to start out as a good relationship is going to end up being. She, I feel, is going to be very controlling. Remember, we going back with that phone call that we had with the guy who was like, or we can kill your son. is going to be very controlling, and she's going to play a lot of mind games with Tariq. She's going to play a lot of mind games with Tasha, where Tasha could think that she's being set up and is going to be, killed, and it's going to end up driving her insane as well. And Tariq not knowing what's really going on behind the scenes and not knowing what's going on with his mother, because I don't feel that Tasha's going to be out saying, she's threatening our lives, you have to go and take her out, at least not in the very early stages. I feel that he's going to not be in the know in regards to what's really going on, and there's going to be a lot of manipulation that's happening. I do feel that she's going to try maybe to turn Tariq against his mother, but that all depends on how strong the bond is with Tariq and his mother, which I think at this moment is very strong. We don't know what could happen later on in the future, but at this moment, that I don't think would be the smartest tactic, which is why it is easier for them to go after with Tasha and saying, "Oh, we'll kill Tariq," because she's in a more vulnerable position. But I do feel that this somehow is going to end up affecting his money, and because of maybe the connection and the power that Mary has, it could end up affecting the case and the connection that she has with lawyers and prosecutors. So this is not going to go very well. That's just my theory, because I'm still convinced that Mary is crazy and that she kidnapped them kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna get messy. I can see it's gonna get messy, but it's just a matter of how. And you said something like you said, Tariq should be scared or whatever. But like, I want to ask this question though. Should Tariq be scared of Monae, or should Monae be scared of Tariq? Because, like, this is, after all,
No.
this is the guy who killed
Tariq
Ghost.
is
He killed Ghost, remember that?
no.
And
Yeah, but
he's
we
very
know that he
intelligent.
killed Ghost, but here's the thing. Yes, he is very intelligent, but when it comes in regards to street smarts, she has him beat. She's been doing this way longer. Remember the whole situation, if we're going back with the phone? Remember how she said, "I was walking before you was crawling," or something in that regards? Basically saying that she's always 10, 20 steps ahead of everyone when it comes to outthinking in regards to, what kids do. That I feel can easily be applied by streets. Ghost is not some type of powerful, omnipresent, even from back then. We don't know the sheer amount of connections that Mary's character has. So, no, to answer your question. And I still kind of feel that Tariq may think that he is going to fix the situation and end up getting into even worse.
Right. Now, okay, so when it comes to violence and stuff, Monae has Tariq beat, of course. I mean, she's got Kane, she's a very strong person herself, and, she can get something done to Tariq. But, like, the way they're writing Tariq this season, they're making him, like, super calculating, like Ghost was originally in Power. And it's like, Tariq is already thinking, like, 5 steps ahead, it looks like. And I think he has many cards he can play against Monae, and he might already be plotting something against her. So that's the reason I asked. So should she be scared of him? But she is already onto him, of course, because she was looking for information on him and everything previously, and now she has a trump card, of course, with Tasha being in prison and everything. So it's like, it's almost a stalemate. They kind of, they could pull some strings against one another if it comes to that. So it's like I said, it's gonna be messy, and it's gonna be interesting to see what comes of this arrangement moving forward. But Rich, what do you think about this whole situation and them finally working together?
All right, so let's approach it from this angle first and foremost. I do believe it is going to be a messy situation. They have already established in this episode that yes, Monet is a very controlling parent, and when she had her whole conversation with Diana about not going to school, we already know, as we have seen in other movies, TV shows, whenever there is a controlling parent, what happens? 9 times out of 10, the kid will go behind the parent's back and do whatever they want to do. So this goes right into the fact that she is developing a relationship with Tariq. Obviously, Monet does not want her around Tariq, but now you have this complicated situation where you decide to work with this kid, who is supposedly a very dangerous person to work with, and you think you can control them. So now that means that there's definitely going to be some issue. One thing that I don't really understand is that obviously they have established the fact that Zeke needs Tariq, because if he doesn't have Tariq helping him to get this work done, then he will not get a scholarship. He will not be able to play ball. He will not be able to go and it will not be able to go to the NBA. Okay, that's clear. But beyond that, with the information that Monet knows about Tariq, why would you still want to work with this kid if he's so dangerous? That's why I go back to the question of why does she want to keep this business thing going? When the police officer clearly told her it's not a good idea to keep this thing going. There has to be a reason why she needs this to keep going, whereas you would go out and work with somebody who you were told is not somebody you should work with just to keep things going. So they have to do a better job of explaining what is the struggle. Why do they have to keep the business going? Are they in some type of financial debt or some type of issue? That has to be made very clear. So I'm hoping that is explained as we get deeper into the episodes, because otherwise you're just asking for trouble working with somebody who Tariq says it's easy money. Kids at this college, they need these pills. We can do this and you won't even be linked to this, so on and so forth. But why take the risk unless there's something else that's telling you, oh, we have to work with this kid? So they have to do a better job of explaining that, because they haven't done a good job of explaining it yet.
Yeah, that's like that's one of the holes here, because it's like Monet and her family, like they're looked at as these big experienced, drug kingpins or whatever, who have been in the streets, who have been doing this, right? And of course, in this episode they kind of show us that they're dealing with these people who are kind of blowing up the situation on social media or whatever. And I guess that's kind of like their main customer, I guess, if you will, that they're kind of giving drugs to or whatever, right? But it's like the streets is the streets, right? So it's like if you don't want to deal with those people anymore, surely you can find other people. Like surely you have other contacts or other people that you can distribute this stuff to. Because you should have a lot of different connections at this point, especially if your husband is, this kind of big polarizing figure that they're making him out to be, like this, this big hotshot or whatever. Like surely there's somebody else that she could get into business with, right? But she settles on Tariq, who, at this point, his dad is allegedly dead. And his mother is in prison, and everything is kind of against Tariq's name right now, and on top of that he's a school kid, and I mean on a school campus, like that's kind of a risky business situation as it is, like that could fall apart at any time. So yeah, it is a bit like it's not entirely plausible that this would happen. And if Monet is privy to all of this information about Tariq, already, then yeah, it's probably not the best idea. But I guess Zeke is supposed to be the determining reason in this as well, because she wants him to stay in school or whatever, and then be able to go to the NBA or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That's power for you. Everything is just convenient in a way, but but I mean, we just it's one of those things where you just gotta kind of be like, okay, all right, it's convenient, but let's see where this goes. But yeah, that is kind of a flaw in the writing. But I hope they tighten that up a little bit more as we move on.
Yeah, I'm just saying it can't really just be about Zeke. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that it is, and that's what they are really heavily leaning to. It's really about making sure that he can stay in school and he can do what he has to do. But I would question that. If I find it very weird how Monet is concerned about that, but she's not concerned about her own kids. She wants them to stay doing the family business.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a problem. They have to explain this a lot more than they've done so far.
Yeah, it's like she thinks of Zeke as being talented and being able to make it, but why don't you see that in your own children too? Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
big problem. But yeah, and speaking of Zeke as well, like I kind of like that they showed more of his character and his what he's going through because I watched the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance or whatever, and that was actually a pretty interesting documentary series. And I'm kind of interested now in the life of a basketball player, like going from the college scene all the way to the pro NBA scene, NBA scene and everything. So that's an interesting story to see play out in the show as well, and I'm wondering if they're going to show more of that as things go on. Obviously, a lot of that it does lie on Tariq and what he's able to do for Zeke. So I'm sure we will see more of it, but yeah, I definitely found that interesting to kind of see that perspective, of a young basketball player who wants to get to the NBA.
Oh
So
yeah,
that was
I,
cool.
I instantly thought of NBA 2K, the 2K series when they have the My Player career mode, and they show this exact same stuff with you interviewing reporters, and then you have to pick an answer, and then based on your answer, it'll either bring up the team morale or lower the team morale. Same thing goes for the coaches and the press as well. So yeah, that good for them to emphasize that for sure. And we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can say that's one of the things I kind of like about this series so far, because it gives you a lot of different perspectives. So like in the main Power, although that was I at this moment I feel like that was the better show, like the original Power. But it was mainly a crime show, like it revolved around the criminal underworld and everything. But this is like it's giving you different sides, like you're seeing the life of a basketball player, the teachers, you're seeing the courtroom drama, and you're also seeing the criminal world. So I kind of like that so far about it. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, any final things to say about Monet and Tariq and the situation they're getting into before we speak on what's to come next? Dana, you got anything?
No, I don't have anything else.
They,
Aside
they,
from, I don't trust her.
Dana said Mary J. Blige still can't act. Also, so that's the other thing.
You don't think she
I don't know why you put words in my mouth. This was a very positive discussion. I don't know why you gotta be saying that. This is an Oscar Award nominee. I don't know why you would ever think Mary J. Blige was not the most exceptional actress of all time to grace television screens.
That's true.
She is wonderful in her delivery of lines with the same note.
You don't think she did a better job in this episode?
I have no comment. Acting, it takes some time.
Yeah, I think we'll let's see what is the explanation she gives as to why she's controlling, and then I guess we can use that as a determining factor in that particular argument. So
There's still no determining factor unless there's like a hit out on all your kids. the second that you no longer have any control of them. There's no explanation to how she's acting. She's acting, like I said, like she done kidnapped them kids. Something's wrong.
Yeah,
She's
like
way too paranoid with the phone. Why is there a family burner? Even if you are a drug dealer thing, I have never heard of the family burner phone where we all have to come together and use this one phone and you're not allowed to have other phones. Bit weird.
that was weird phrasing to call it a family burner, but I can understand
Family.
like having a specific burner to contact Lorenzo, but
Yeah.
why call it the family burner? Like that was weird phrasing, I guess. But
Yet the wording was, that's what I'm saying. It's the way how she said it made me feel that something is not right.
Hmm.
Family burner phone. Then she's running around and destroying the other phone. Something's not right.
yeah, I mean, I think the main thing with Mary J. Blige, the actress, is like her facial range isn't very deep. Like I feel like like her
Wow.
expressions
They're gonna be some Mary J. Blige fans that are gonna be
Golly.
leaving negative comments on this video.
Please direct
I'm sorry.
all of the hate towards Gary. I said nothing. She is an Oscar Award nominee.
Now I don't even think she's bad, to be honest. Like I haven't watched her performance and been like, wow, this is terrible or anything like that. But like I just feel like, it's just her, her facial expressions are sometimes a little bland and like for the scene that she's in or whatever. So if she
Wow.
works on
Well,
that,
she
she'll
said
be
no
good.
more drama. There you go. She said no more drama in my life. So then she's not giving into that energy of drama
Absolutely,
anymore.
absolutely.
Yeah. Like Tasha is actually a good facial actor because she has like different expressions and stuff. So like if Mary works on that, she'll be good, I think. And
Ouch.
that was Lala's problem as well. She wasn't really good with the facial expressions, I don't think.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
Lala wasn't good in a lot of aspects, and it wasn't just the face. But we no longer have to talk about the dead characters anymore. It's gone on to that next 50 Cent show.
yeah, I guess. So let's move on to the promo that we saw at the end, because I don't want to make people mad. So let's swiftly move on to the promo at the end of this episode. We see, a returning character again, which is Mr. Tate, and we see many other scenes as well. So I want to hand it over to Rich now because he's like he gives the some of the best analysis on these promo videos that we see. So Rich, what's your thoughts on that, and what can you kind of dissect from that promo that we might see play out next week?
Well, we saw Monae finally tell her kids that Tariq St. Patrick is their new business partner, and we see that Tariq all throughout that trailer, obviously, just working on stacking that paper to help out his mom. Talking with Braden, there's a lot of different shots of Braden hitting somebody. So obviously they're gonna have to deal with some people as well. And when it comes to getting their money and getting the product, we see that Tariq is basically talking to Tasha, and she's telling him you need to get a gun, for protection and stuff like that. And we did see that I guess Tariq is going to get a gun in the next episode as well. We see that he has a very interesting conversation with Lauren, and she mentions that you're not the only one that has secrets. And right before that, there's a shot of her in a conversation with Jabari, and Tariq is also there. So I don't really know what. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what they're going to reveal about the Lauren character. But obviously, it's more to that character than meets the eye, and yeah, we'll have to see what that's all about. But yeah, I mean, the trailer, it definitely made me interested to see what happens next week. Um, it looks as though business is going to start picking up for Tariq and everybody else involved. But we already know that as you both have already said, this partnership is not going to be as smooth as everyone would think it's going to be. So I'm curious to see how that starts to unfold. And it does also look like Tariq kisses Diana for the very first time in next week's episode. So we'll see what type of drama that creates. Uh, in terms of how the storyline moves forward.
Wow, yeah. I think next week's episode is gonna be like way better than this one. Like, cause like I said, like this episode 3 was one of those ones where it's just kind of it's a spinning wheel. Like it's just moving the story forward. But next week I feel like we're gonna see some explosive stuff. So yeah.
And also, it's going to be the return of Dana's favorite character, Tate, as well. So,
why is this my favorite character? Every 5 seconds, you was like, "Yes, Tate. I love Tate. Great to see Tate. Tate.
I mean, the question I have is, they said that there's a case that they are now bringing up again. I'm guessing this has to do with Ghosts. Where he was when this whole thing happened with Ghosts. I mean, I don't know. We'll get more answers because obviously he had his own scandal he was dealing with also in season 6. So I'm curious to know what exactly it is that what information they find that puts him into question now as well. But I have to give them credit because they found a way to make a show where you can bring back all these other characters, and again, it will keep people interested. Because Tate also has a spinoff. Tommy also has a spinoff, even though Tommy is not on the show yet. I find it interesting, yes, how Dana because he made a comment about this before. They are finding a way to bring other characters that also have spinoff shows back for this show. So now you have to watch this show to see what happens to those characters and how that's going to be connected to their spinoff. So I give them credit for that, but I definitely want to see what's the explanation for bringing Tate back in this show. So yeah. I look forward to next week.
Yeah, I really like that they do that because it is. I know I bring this up all the time, like this parallel, like to the MCU, but it really is like that. It's like now it's a universe because we know that Tate has his own show, but we're also seeing him here, and so it's like it really feels connected. So I gotta give him credit for that for sure. Because that definitely takes some effort. But yeah, Dana, have you got any predictions for next week based on that promo?
No, I don't know.
It's
gonna see more of the what? No, it's gonna we're gonna just see more of Tariq try to straddle both the lines as a student and now a partner drug dealer.
Yeah, I really want to see that scene with Method Man and Tate. I want to see what sparks that in the investigation and the case and everything. So
yeah,
because that could be interesting. And yeah, like, so what do you guys think about Method Man so far? His character in this episode, like he didn't really do a lot. Like he was there a lot, but he didn't have a lot of lines, I guess. But this is what I like about Method Man's character, because it's like he says a lot with just his expression, and there's these scenes where he's just like giving looks and things like that, and it says 1,000 words, like just the way he's looking and stuff. So I like that. Like his character's like very animated and stuff, and he seems like very smart as well, like, because he always seems to know that there's more going on. So like, do you guys feel like his character has been a positive addition to the show so far? Go ahead, Dana.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, 1,000%. His character is very interesting. Even though it's, the stereotypical sleazy lawyer, but he plays it very well to the point where I want to learn more about his character. I want to know the backstory. I want to know how he became a lawyer, and I'm interested in seeing his involvement with Tate. And they're both kind of two sleazy characters too, so it could be very fun.
Yeah. You satisfied with him so far, Rich?
Absolutely. I mean that was one of the reasons why I was interested in watching the show. Him and Mary J. Blige. You're adding people who are fans of the original Power to the show, and obviously with Method Man, we know a lot of the roles he's had in the past. He's still playing like a silly type of character, not really a character you can take serious. In this particular role, I do obviously it's still silly at times with the character, but again, he's supposed to be a lawyer, so you kind of look at him a little bit differently with a suit on and all this other stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Method Man. I think he's been a great addition to the show. I'm very curious to see what happens though. And again, as I had mentioned when we recorded previous episodes, I want to see more of what's going on with the character in his personal life outside of the courtroom. Because as you made mention to, this is a sleazy lawyer. You would only assume that yes, maybe he does some dirty stuff too behind the scenes, similar to how Proctor was doing stuff dirty as well. So yeah, I'm curious if they're going to explore that, but we'll have to wait and see.
Do you think Tamika is going to join the team and they're going to be like a super group of lawyers?
I mean, given Sax's track record of how he destroys relationships, I would not be surprised if he messes around and causes things to go awry with Tamika, and that leads to her joining. But I think eventually, yes, they didn't want to. Again, it feels to me like they didn't want to rush into making this all about Sax, at least not in the very beginning of the season. But as we get deeper into the season, absolutely 100%, I think that is going to happen. It's just a matter of what is going to be the act that pushes it over for her to say, okay, maybe I will join up with you and help you take down Sax. So we'll have to see how they're eventually going to get to that point. But I do think it's coming.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to see that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Unless you guys had anything else to bring up, now is the moment to do so. Going once, going twice. Okay, yeah. So that will be it for this week. This is one of our longest episodes in a while. I thought it was going to be the shortest, to be honest. But as always, there's a lot to discuss with this show, and we love talking about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening. And as I said before, you're free to send those voice notes to Gary at thecoalition.com if you wish to have it played on the show and everything. And we want to. What's up, Rich?
Oh no, I have a comment to make. I'll wait till you finish.
Okay. And I was just gonna say, and we appreciate everyone who leaves comments every week. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you want to the YouTube. Also visit the coalition.com website. We have a lot of other content. Dana has many interviews with people in the entertainment field. We have video game talk on there as well, talking about the PS5 and everything. And yeah, we have wrestling. We have a lot of stuff on the website, so definitely go check that out. And you can also catch us on Spotify and the Apple Podcast app. We're pretty much everywhere. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. And Rich, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to take a quick minute to once again thank Mr. Robert Silver for the nice words. We appreciate everybody that leaves comments. When we do hear voice messages, also, it's also great motivation for us to continue doing this show because, again, when we started recording this upcoming season, I think we all, well, at least you and I, we did not have a positive mindset that this show was actually going to be worth covering. So whenever I hear positive feedback from the commenters as well as the people leaving messages such as Robert, I really appreciate that. So if anyone does want to leave any more audio or just comments in general, definitely put that out there. We appreciate all the feedback we get, 100%. And again, if you want to debate us on any of the questions that we asked, please leave those conversations in there as well. Because again, it's great. It's great. It feels great to talk about these shows. We enjoy covering the shows. So as long as you also enjoy the content we're going to be doing, we'll continue to do this content for as long as we are around. So yes, that's all I wanted to say. Yes, thank you for the positive feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you indeed, because you guys make it all worth it to do this, So yeah, thanks for that. And I also want to give a big thank you to Stars for making this possible as well. Because, I am in the UK, and, if I didn't have access, we wouldn't be able to do this. So, big thank you to Stars and everything. And wasn't there some news that this is actually breaking some record or something, or the viewership is really good?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up real fast, because I was surprised to hear that. Yeah, here it is. So, according to an email that I received 4 days ago, the headline was "Debut of Starz Original Series Power Book 2 Ghost drives 42% increase and new signups and sets all-time viewership record on the Starz app." So let me just make a comment and say this. Let's keep it real, okay? There aren't really too many shows on Starz that people care about. So when they heard that Power was coming back, I'm sure a lot of people signed up because they want to watch Power. American Gods is another good show on there. And of course, P-Valley, which is a show that I watched. But I think a lot of people, they like Power. Think about how big it was for Starz when the show first came to the app. So I'm not really too surprised with the increase. I am, however, going to be interested to see if that number sticks all the way to the end of the season. Because I mean, again, this was only counting when the show debuted. So I would love to see what the numbers are on a week-to-week basis as to whether or not the show is actually maintaining that number. But I guess we'll get that answer in due time.
Yeah. That's. I mean, that's great news though, because
absolutely
we need this show to keep going, and hopefully, the Starz execs are happy with the progress of the show so far and everything, and they'll keep Courtney Kemp and 50 Cent well funded so they can keep pumping out the shows. And I also saw a news story as well this week that 50 Cent is going to be producing a documentary about his beef with the game and G-Unit and
really?
stuff. Yeah, for Starz. So I like that there's all this cool, black hip hop content coming out on, thanks to Power being successful. So that's all a positive. That's a plus. So yeah, props to the whole Starz and Power team. The writers, Courtney Kemp, 50, everyone over there.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
But yeah, we will be back once again next week to recap episode 4. Hopefully, I'm hoping there's no break this season. Like, they usually have like a week break or something. I hope that doesn't happen this for this. But yeah, we'll be back next week. So, set your alarms, I guess. I hope everyone has a good week until then. Take care of yourselves, mask up and everything, and be careful, because this year is pretty crazy. So
absolutely,
take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Peace.